What's going on, guys? This is episode one of the Moto Talk podcast, where we talk about the world of motocross and both the gaming and the real life side of things. We have a very special guest for episode one today, the man, the myth, the legend, REAPERDOC. Doc, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for actually giving us a shot. When I
Yeah, of
sent you
course.
that DM over Discord, I had no expectation that you would even read it.
Yeah, I try to get to most of the DMs, and if it's somebody like this where somebody was trying to do something cool, I'm always down to try to be a part of it.
That's awesome. So, for our listeners that may not know, I want to get right into your story and what made you fall in love with this sport initially?
Motocross initially, or just dirt bikes in general. Oh man, I think my earliest memory ever is sitting on the gas tank of my dad's YZ490 doing laps in our driveway. Like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure 2 years old, 3 years old in a diaper, just sitting on a two-stroke gas tank. Like that was everything. And I think from then I was just absolutely hooked. And then he got me a bike, a PW50 at 3 years old. And it was kind of an excuse for him to get his own bike because he bought a brand new, it was like the '03 450 from Yamaha. Uh, and I guess, well, no, that was later, but he got me a PW before that. And I just, I was just hooked from that point on. Like it's all I was ever a part of.
I got you. That's pretty much how we all got hooked in some way,
Yeah.
shape, or fashion, right? And I
Yeah,
remember
absolutely.
when I was a kid, I was probably three or four, and my father, he took us to the arena cross races in
Okay.
Redmond, and it
Yeah.
was cool because Kevin Windham was there the one time I went, and he did a couple little laps for opening ceremonies.
Yeah.
And then a year
Did you do a
later, he got
transfer?
me. What was that?
I said, did he do a transfer?
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
You know he did.
Of course he did.
And then a year later, I got he bought me my first dirt bike, little 2003 KTM 50 SX.
Yeah. Is that the one you have to kick forward? The
Yep.
kickstart went forward. Yeah, yeah. I
Yep.
had one of those too later on. Yeah.
Try by fire, learn to kickstart early.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I know you do predominantly MX bikes content. I do watch a lot of your videos on both YouTube and TikTok.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, they're great. And I know you do a lot of the how-to videos. You know, you cater to the newer intermediate players, how to do
Right.
setups, how to, improve your corner speed, choose rhythm
Right.
lanes. What
Yeah.
got you started on that style of content for this platform?
That's a good question. Really, I started making MX bikes content basically out of a necessity. I had some injuries happen and whatnot, and I lost my job, my driver's license from those. And so I needed to try to make some money somehow. And so I started making content, and I quickly realized that in order to be successful through content creation, you have to find a niche. And I guess I thought originally that MX Bikes itself, because it was a small game, could be a niche in itself. But I realized through studying and whatnot that no, that wasn't the case. I needed to kind of double down and get even deeper. And so I spent months. You can ask my wife. I was kind of a crazy person where I had whiteboards throughout my house of analytics and all kinds of stuff I really studied and basically ended up figuring out that my audience was there to learn. And I didn't really mean to do that. It was just, I was trying to figure out how to do titles at the time. And a lot of my titles I noticed that worked were like, oh, how to do this, or there's a new setup video. And after months of studying, I figured out that, oh man, my core audience is there to learn, and apparently I'm teaching. And so from that day forward, I really just doubled down on the teaching side of things. And I really want to make fun content, but I understood that from like a business perspective, I really needed to teach because that's what kept people coming back. And then eventually I could break off into something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're one of the very few, at least that I have seen, that really caters to the new guys and trying to help them get better. and I
Yeah,
think it's really growing the community at an exponential rate.
sure.
I think that's absolutely awesome. I know your videos have helped me a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
still not good at the game, but I'm getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been cool. Like I didn't, like I said, it was never really my intent. I didn't really want to make tutorial content. I really, at the time when I made this decision, King Ryder was, I don't know if anyone listening or you remembers King Ryder, but he was blowing up at the time for making some really in-depth, entertaining videos that just had me cracking up. And like that was the kind of content I really wanted to make. And but then I realized, well, okay, well, I can't really make that. I tried to do some stuff, but it just didn't really do well. And then the tutorial side was doing well. And then I kind of fell in love with that as well, and just really enjoyed teaching. And I cannot tell you how many thousands of people have DM'd me that, they couldn't make it around a lap and then they saw this video and now they're, able to run this time or whatever. And so that's been really fulfilling. And that's led to a ton of opportunity since then too. So I'm glad I stuck with it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of us that are really glad that you did. Now, you've been making collaborations and making tracks for a while, right?
Yes. With track creators, my first track I think was The Ranch, and I think it's about 8 or 9 months now, something in there.
Time's been flying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super. I feel like we just did that yesterday, but yeah, big time.
Now, you did drop that you are collaborating with another creator and making uncopyrighted music tracks for creators.
Yeah, we are doing now. That has kind of taken up as well, or taken off as well. I am always looking for like that RD logo. What can I put that on, and what can I just expand this brand? And outside of MX bikes, I know that at some point we have to start looking beyond video games and how am I going to sustain a living 10 years down the road. And so I'm always looking at what can I do to push RD a little bit farther. And well, I am obsessed with music. I love music. I don't know how to play. I couldn't do anything. I can't play the drums. I can't play anything. But as much as dirt bikes has been from 2 years old, I remember sneaking, because my mom wouldn't let me listen to it. I remember sneaking Metallica's Black Album into my room on a SpongeBob cassette player at like 4 years old and just listening to Enter Sandman over and over again. And so, I mean, music is like at my core something I love. And so it just kind of made sense. Like, oh man, I would love to be in the music space, but I mean, I have no talent whatsoever in that area. Never played an instrument. And then I was at a Bible study, and one of the guys there was talking about how he was making hip hop beats. And I was like, well, hey, I have platform. Like, do you want to work together? And that's how that original album came up. And then since then, on one of my dirt bike tracks or tracks we made in bikes, one of the sponsors was like, you could clearly tell that one of the sponsors was a metal logo, like a metal band. And so I messaged him and was like, hey, can you send me some of your music? I'm just curious. Well, it turns out he was a big fan of RDE and, and now he's working on a metal album. And then we released that most recent album, which was just like the techno kind of, I forget the name of it, synthwave kind of stuff.
Okay.
And since then, a ton of people have messaged me, and we have like 4 or 5 people working on music now, which is insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like we should be cranking out like over the next few months, like a lot of music. So it's pretty exciting.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it when I see bigger creators helping out the little guys.
Yeah.
Hey, here's some tools that you could use to help grow your brand, grow your
Sure.
platform. Now, you know, I watched your podcast with Exhibit, which I
Sure.
thought was phenomenal, by the way. I
Oh,
really
thank you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And guys, quick note, go check out their podcast. Please.
It's on Exhibit's channel. We should be doing it every week.
Now, you did touch over what I think is one of your biggest milestones, at least from my perspective, when you created the Alive compound.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you had that collab post with AP and Pierce Brown.
Yeah.
And that was mind blowing. That right there is why I decided to start a podcast like this, and like what
Wow.
you and Exhibit are doing to kind of bridge that gap between gaming and the IRL side of Moto.
Right.
Because everything's starting to integrate. I'm seeing the signs kind of start
Mhm.
getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely people are noticing. You know, brands are noticing, riders are noticing, everybody's, I'll try to word this in a way, but there's not a lot of competition in the motocross gaming world at the moment. And what's out there, I think a lot of people aren't super happy with. And Bikes is really filling a hole at the moment. And now Bikes has plenty of issues and isn't the perfect game, as we all know, but it is doing something that nothing else is doing currently at the moment. And I think people are really hungry for it, and esports and gaming is just blowing up. And so brands are starting to pay attention that, man, influencers are important in our marketing. Video games is a huge, I mean, they've been aware of this for a while, but the dirt bike scene is starting to pay attention. And so, yeah, it's been very cool.
Now, do you have any more? Are you going to keep releasing tracks? Do you have anything in the works?
So that Aaron Plessinger, Brown, Bogle thing blew a door open that I didn't really think was possible. And I am so blessed that happened. I have no idea how, I mean, as much as everyone else, because I was getting DMs like crazy, right? Like, how did you pull this off? My response was, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. We made a cool track, and like those guys followed me, throughout the years. AP's been following me for a long time. He's been following Exhibit, me, like Linz and Troy, all of us for a while. And like AP's a gamer and in the background, but like doesn't really talk about it too much. And then Brown and Bogle both followed me. And so I had helped Bogle. And this is why I talked about earlier, where I said I was really happy that I stuck with kind of the tutorial side, is because when anyone new comes into bikes now, they're like, oh, well, Doc is, that's the place to go to learn how to play the game. Well, I didn't know that Justin Bogle and Pierce Brown were going to do that too. And so that's what led to those relationships was, I jump on and play with them at night, try to teach them a few things, help them with mods, whatever. And then, yeah, we posted that track and I just had the idea and I messaged Keewan and was like, dude, like, can we make some spots for these big guys? I don't know if I can get their logos, but I'll message them. As far as I'm concerned, it's just free advertising, see what we can do. And he said, absolutely, let's run it. And so I messaged him, just shot a message to those three, and can I have some logos? All of them were like, sure, it sent me them over. And I was like, okay, which that was crazy in itself. And then the collaboration post, that was also I just sent it, and I think that's something I think people really need to realize, that, man, just shoot your shot. There was no money exchanged or no conversation at all. And I just thought, well, the worst that could happen is they just don't accept the collab post. I mean, it was awesome that they were on the track at all. And then they all accepted it. Well, to answer your question, I'm a big rabbit trail guy, but to answer your question, we do have a ton more stuff coming up. We're working on 2 at the moment, one with an IRL team, another with just a pretty big IRL Instagram account. And then I have Shane Malkorath we're working on something with. And I'm going to revisit Bogle and his brand again. And then I'm working on a few really big ones that I don't have exactly locked in yet, but we have some connections. I'm pretty confident we'll be able to pull it off in some way or another. But yeah, there's a lot of big stuff coming.
Hey guys, you heard it here first. Big news coming out of the RD Factory. Now, are you still offering slots for sponsors for the tracks?
So it depends on what the person I'm collabing with now, it depends on what they want. The first 2 that we're doing, both of them have just requested that they're the only logos. I know that a few of the other ones said they don't really care. They just want to be like the primary. So absolutely, if they let me, we'll open it up because I know people really like. I mean, I got to think about it too. Like, man, it's cool seeing my RD logo next to AP. So giving other people the opportunity to do that as well is really, really cool. And I know people jump all over that. So
No,
yeah,
for
if
sure. I would love to sponsor one of your open slots
yeah,
when
if
and if you have them.
yeah, we'll be if I can, we'll be all over Instagram and Discord if we're opening stuff up for sure.
See, that's what I love about this community. That's what I love about you, man. You're opening doors that people didn't know even existed.
it's it's a blessing. Like I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I just I'm just really grateful and that people see the value in RD enough, like that logo to be or, that brand if you will, to want to be a part of it. It's something that I've focused on from day 1 of content. I knew that all right, I need to focus on branding and like the integrity of the brand, of who I am, of what RD stands for. And I knew that that would be more important than the views, right? If I didn't need to be the biggest guy, and I'm certainly nowhere near the biggest guy in the space, but if I was the most trusted name and the most like looked at name, I guess, if you like, or had the most integrity in the name, and not saying nobody else has the integrity, I just mean that was my focus from the day one. And anyone that's you starting to try something new and starting your own brand, that would be my biggest tip, is just focus on branding and being like a trustworthy name, and it will open doors for you like crazy, and then you can open doors for other people, which is awesome.
Absolutely. One thing I have noticed is when people start platforms like this, right? They're all about, oh, I got to get the views, I got to make the
Sure.
money, yada yada yada. We need more people that have an outlook of, I'm not in it for the views, I'm not in
Sure.
it for the money, I'm in it purely for an entertainment purpose. I want one day for someone to go onto my platform and say, this is my favorite creator.
Yeah. And I think people forget that, like, the views, the financial side of it, I mean, it comes, right? Like, you just have to understand that you just want to do it in the right way. And I see a lot of creators trying to go for like the huge multi-million pop-off post. And I talked about this a little bit on Exhibit's podcast, but you don't really know how to follow that up, right? If I had I mean, even now, if I had a TikTok hit 100 million views and I gained 1 million followers off of it, I don't fully understand how to meet that expectation again still. And I've been, I mean, this is 5 years now I've been doing this or something. And I think people really undervalue the process and learning and not getting the views and learning from your mistakes, because you're going to make 1 million mistakes, and learning from your wins. But all of that helps you build like a consistent baseline platform, which in my opinion is far more valuable than just popping off once and then not really being able to back it up,
Absolutely. Now, before we get into the IRL stuff,
Sure.
I know we've had a really silly off season with riders and teams. I do want to ask. I know you touched on it in Exhibit's podcast. How surprised were you in the last minute lineup for Team USA Motocross of Nations?
Very much like in their performance, or just like that was the lineup. I guess both.
Let's go both.
Yeah, both. Yeah, I don't think anybody. When I saw Coop on a 250, that was a huge what? But I mean, Cooper Webb on a 250 was an animal, and man, if we could get that back, like man, we'd be doing really, really well. And then AP super solid, and then getting Tomac, I just really wasn't sure. I saw that team being a winning team, but I also saw that team not, and kind of being a little bit of, I don't want to say letdown, because they're all three of them are incredible, but with the unknown factor of Coop on a 250, like either he was going to do what he did, which was insane, or he was going to be beyond mid, I thought. And same with Tomac, either he was going to come back, still be getting used to things, ride really tight, or he was going to be Tomac. And and I was so excited to see them really show up. I mean, I was yelling at my TV. I had my kids locked in, I have both my son and my daughter next to me on the couch, and they picked a person to root for. And, they were all excited. And I mean, when Moto 3, when Tomac came around the line and was like 5 bikes ahead of everybody else, I mean, I think I threw my hat, I was like, gosh, but
I
it was
had both
cool.
my boys sitting on the couch next to me. I was watching the race, and out of nowhere, it is dead silent except for the TV, and I jump up and I start screaming. It scares the crap out of my kids.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I was very skeptical. The whole t- web on a 250 really blew my mind. Like, what were they thinking?
Right.
Because Webb hadn't ridden a 250 in years.
Yeah,
He's
very
been
long
for
time.
years. He's been
Yeah.
a top 5 contender on the 450s.
Right.
And I was really worried about Tomac because throughout the entire Supercross season this last year, it's been a different Tomac, and not in a good way, because of his injuries he sustained.
Sure.
He really fell off, which was really surprising to me. I had full confidence he would come back from that injury in Denver and just beast mode it back. I was really worried, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised to see him be the Tomac of old.
Yeah, me too. I mean, man, they really showed up. All 3 of them did exactly what they should, and AP was super solid. I wish, honestly, that third moto, it was raining. I wish it would started raining more, because I really was like, man, if it turns into a mutter, AP is gonna bark, and I was really hoping it opened up.
He's gonna make sixth in an early, what was it, San Francisco, the mud race.
Yeah.
I guarantee if AP was on his A game that race, he would have blown Sexton out of the water.
Yeah, I mean,
He would have checked that.
He's the mud goat, and I was really hoping, as I started to see them, as it was raining, I was like, man, just open up for that third race so AP can just demolish everybody. Tomac's really good. And I mean, he was on that day, so I think no matter what condition it was, Tomac would have been insane. But I think they all did awesome. I think Coop got 3rd overall, right, or something like that in the 250.
Like that. He did really good.
And AP was exactly solid, like I would expect him to be, just good races every time. And then Captain America, I feel like we have to call him Captain America at this point, right? Like,
it's not Beast Mode anymore. It's Captain America.
It's Captain America, he came off the couch and just dominated. Yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool to see. But I mean, that whole weekend, probably the best weekend of racing I have seen in so long. Tim Geiser and Lawrence going back and forth was incredible.
Katie Wolf had a really good ride too.
Yeah, like, I don't watch a ton of MXGP stuff, so usually I watch Donations every year. I watch some MXGP stuff here and there, but like I don't go out of my way to watch it. But watching Wolf like wheelie some of the corners on, I was really impressed. And there's rumors of him coming over here to race Soupy. I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, the more comp we can get over here, the better.
Scary bike control.
Yeah. And I've seen the clips of him, right? Like that's pretty much how I know him. I see some clips where I'm just like, dude, like what was that? How is that even possible? But yeah, so it was an awesome weekend.
It was very surprising, very good racing. By far the best racing of any outdoor event we've had in the last couple of years, honestly.
A long time. It's been a long time you get me out of my seat watching any sort of motorcycle race. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, silly season, bro.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of changes. I mean, Troy Lee Designs Gas is no longer a team.
Yeah. That's interesting. What is happening with the 450 side of it? Is it staying?
So from what I read through Vital MX, all the factory riders are being absorbed by Rockstar Husky.
Interesting.
And from what I've heard, Troy Designs is leaving Gas as a manufacturer, and they're going to try and develop a Ducati team for 2026.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. So does that mean Barsha on a Husky? Huh.
Well, I
Huh.
mean, so it's kind of a gray area. I've heard they're going to be on Huskies. I've heard they're going to stay on Gas, but the
Be
Husky
under that
team is
tent.
going to oversee everything.
Interesting.
It's a weird spot, man.
Yeah, KTM's always doing something like that. They're always doing some,
Whole KTM
the
family
KTM
is just,
family always doing some weird.
oh
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, very strange. And then I've heard, which Exhibit told me this, that Prado's coming over on a Cowie.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll be.
I don't think it's quite confirmed, but I think he is in talks with a multi-year deal going on with Cowie right now, which
I
would
mean, that
be
would make sense.
amazing for, he pretty much did what Vial did, an MXGP, MX2 guy, you
Yeah,
know, born in the outdoors in the woods and in the mud, coming in for Soupy and putting on a clinic.
yeah, yeah. He did really, really well. I was really surprised. I was at A1 in San Francisco, and he was like on form, looked really good. Would have never known he wasn't a soupy rider, right? Like what you would have never known he was an MXGP guy. He looked really, really good.
Which I think it's funny that, the GP guys, they come over to the US for Supercross and Motocross, and they do, by and large, they do pretty well. They do
Yeah.
very well, especially, their first ever Supercross race in their life.
Yeah.
And then you got guys coming from here, and it's kind of a 50-50 mix, whether they go over there and they do really, really well, or they flunk out, which I
Yeah.
think is interesting.
I wonder if it's the MXGP tracks tend to be a lot more technical, right? And a lot more not just wide open like our outdoor tracks. I mean, we have some pretty technical tracks, but I don't think anything really on the level of MXGP. And so I wonder if that technical ability on a bike really helps translate to Supercross. I don't really know. I've only been on a Supercross track once IRL, and I rolled it because I was terrified. So, like I have really no experience on a Super track. But I wonder maybe that was, maybe that helps.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, but it's also really cool to see because, back in the day, MXGP was the premier circuit in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
All the guys raced MXGP. And now it's starting to switch over.
Yeah.
Starting to switch over to Supercross and Motocross and SMX. And the sport as a whole is growing rapidly.
Yeah. Big time.
Which is amazing. I feel like within the next 10 years, motocross as a whole will be just as big as, let's say, American football.
Yeah, I hope so, and I think they got to figure their schedule out a little bit, and like I'm a pretty big fan of the long season because I'm a fan of the sport and more racing, but I would like to see them have a little bit of a shorter season so that we can have all of the guys there as much as possible. Obviously, it's Supercross and motocross, so people are going to get hurt, but
let's shorten up the Supercross season to the same amount of rounds as the outdoors. Let's give the guys a few more weeks to rest up and recover.
Yeah, and maybe they can't change the time of year, but maybe we start Supercross just later because, I mean, going from outdoors and having like 2 weeks off is really not ideal.
It's not even really 2 weeks off. They get done with round 17, and the next day they're at the facility going over motocross setups and training and running 30-minute motos.
And even, I've been talking to Brown a bit and his switch over to Star, and I was talking with him about, oh man, you're looking forward to the off season. And he was like, well, it's really not that much of an off season for me because, we're moving to Florida and we only have a few weeks off and I'm moving. And this happens for a lot of riders, not just Brown, right? They move around different teams, whatnot. And so I only have a few weeks and then it's right back into it. So he's got maybe 2 or 3 weeks of actual off time and then right back into boot camp and training for Soupy. And so, I mean, that is crazy. You're just year round almost, just constantly for years as as a professional career. It'd be cool if they had a little bit more, time to rest,
Absolutely. The more time they have to recover, the healthier they're going to be, the stronger they're
Sure.
going to be, and the better racing we get.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, touching on Pierce Brown, final playoff race.
Yeah.
I'm a big Deegan guy. I've been
Hmm.
following Deegan since he was on like 65s.
Sure.
But to see Brown go out there, get out front early on, and just check out.
Yeah. I
No
mean,
rider, in my opinion, ever deserved a win more than he did.
I mean, from watching Brown, I mean, even before I was friends, I'm trying to take out like my personal friendship now with him, but like, I feel like for years we've all known he was capable of that, right?
Absolutely.
Super fast and qualifying, has shown these little glimpses of getting out front and just dominating. And so I was always hoping it was just a matter of time. Now, I didn't really think he was going to come out and do that, right? I mean, that was really, really impressive. And he was gone, but he was completely checked out, And so that was just gone, right? And that was really, really cool to see. And I really think the star, I mean, obviously the bike is incredible and the team is incredible. I'm really excited. Like, I think he goes from this year, everyone probably would have put him, going into 2024, everyone would have put him fifth, maybe fourth through seventh in their picks. I think he immediately goes up to a title contender, in my opinion,
100%.
on that bike.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think him moving to Star, because, obviously it's Star and Cowie. Those are the two biggest teams. They got the most money. They got the best facilities. I think Brown moving to Star is a great move for him. It's
Totally agree.
really going to ramp up his confidence. Now, the work is going to be tough because it's a whole new level of training and racing.
Right.
But I feel if he can take that pressure
Mhm.
and run with it, there's no doubt whatever coast he decides to race, if he stays on two, he's going to be a title contender.
I would assume that Star would make the decision to split him and Deegan as well on coasts. And so, yeah, I mean, I think personally, Star takes both coasts, with, I don't want to say with ease, because obviously it'll be with tough, but those are my picks for sure.
Absolutely. Now, I agree with you in thinking the smartest move would be to split Deegan and Star, coast to coast. Because obviously Deegan's, the prodigal son.
Sure.
But I will say and this is a big if Star decides to keep those two in the same series, I really think those two are going to battle each other the entire season and elevate both of them to a whole new level. And we're going to have an inter-team rivalry on our hands.
Yeah. I mean, that would be awesome too. From a fan's perspective, like, sure, let's line them up, let's race, that would be awesome too. I just was trying to think of the Star roster, and I probably can't bring it, to mind because there's about 5,000 of them. But, I think, I mean, they got Smith but I think, is he?
Oh, he's going to Triumph.
Yeah. Yeah.
Smith,
there's a lot.
And Romano, I believe, are leaving.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, then I don't think it makes any sense to put Brown and Deegan on the same coast, but we'll see what they do. Sometimes they do different things like that. I mean, and it could depend, I guess, on where they're at, right, physically, and how Brown's feeling on the bike. It seems like Deegan is fine, but we'll see how Brown feels on the bike. If he adapts really quick, like Kitchen did on the Cowie, then sure, I would expect him to be. Yeah, I'm actually really curious now thinking about it. What coast they put Deegan on?
Sure, I've heard talks of both. It would be cool to see him stay on the East Coast and go for the Supercross title that he has been super super close to.
Yeah.
Ever since he turned pro. But it would be nice to see him on the West Coast because I got tickets to Seattle.
Yeah.
But Rumor is if he decides to go west and he ends up taking the title, then he might be forced either this year or next year to move up to the
Hmm.
450s. Which I don't know about that. I mean, this is his third pro year in his career coming up,
Yeah.
and for him to go, hey, if you win this and outdoors, we're gonna kick you up to a 450. I think that's pretty premature. I mean, yeah, it worked for Jet,
Yeah, sure.
100% worked for Jet, but not every rider is Jet Lawrence.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's it's Deegan. Like I don't know. I could
I
see
got
him
faith in
doing
him, I
well,
do,
right? Like,
but I don't want to see him, be one of these super great 250 riders and then
yeah,
move
yeah,
up too soon, and now he can barely get a top 10.
sure. Yeah, that's fair. I don't I don't really see that happening. I mean, I cannot imagine a world where Deegan's like 12th, 11th or 12th, or 8th. Like I don't know. I mean, maybe, and maybe he moves up too soon. Like I would really just not like to see him get hurt, and stay on the 250 until
450 is a
all the,
lot of bike.
I mean,
That's a
kid's
lot of bike.
strong though, I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know. It'd be interesting. I could see him doing well either way, right? Play it safe, stay on the 250. They do seem really smart in his camp, right? Him and his dad seem really, really smart with the decision making that they make.
Absolutely.
And so maybe they just make the smarter decision, which I feel like is rare, especially when you have these guys that are really, really good on 250s and they come out of the gate. I feel like they just go for broke every single time. And as much as he dominates, it does really seem like they have a lot of brains behind what they're doing. And he's just dominating. He's just at that level. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they tried to play it safe and keep him on the 250 and, just make sure he's ready because obviously he has a crazy career ahead of him. We don't want to ruin it now.
Absolutely. If he stays on the track he's going on, he's gonna be one of the greats.
Yeah,
I foresee him surpassing guys like Bubba. I foresee him, if he plays it right, if the
sure.
team makes the right decisions,
Sure.
I see him being on the same caliber as Tomac.
Yeah, I mean, that would be I'm really I'm really bummed he didn't go to Motocross of Nations because I really wanted to see like,
To see him just completely spank everyone in the MX.
I was thinking, man, you think he could have won a moto? I mean, that's crazy to say, but do you think he could have won a moto? I mean, I don't know.
Honestly, I do 100%. Because
So do
yeah,
I.
he's a California boy. He's really, the hard pack. That's where he shines. He shines wide open. But if you really watch him, especially in like clips of him training at the facility, whether it's
Hmm.
on TikTok, Instagram, whatever
Sure.
have you, he's pretty good in the technical stuff too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's really good. He's got the bike control down. He's got the fitness to throw the bike wherever he wants and make it do what it needs to do.
I was
I
watching some
think I don't know
clips.
if he could have taken the overall. I'm
Sure.
pretty confident he could have won a moto.
I was watching some clips of him at Indy, real ruddy, real technical. I mean, it was really surprising because he's just wide open on the clutch the whole time. But like you said, just real perfect everywhere. And it's a really interesting, I think you get a jet style rider who is perfect but isn't flashy. It's really unique, and I can't really think of anyone. I mean, my mind goes is either a Tomac or Villapoto, who's just super aggressive, wide open, but also perfect. And it's awesome to watch. It's very fascinating.
Absolutely.
But
Every time I see Deegan line up on the East Coast, man, I'm like, okay, we're about to race. It's gonna be a good one.
yeah, yeah,
I see it.
yeah, yeah. Definitely made that 250 class fun to watch this year.
Absolutely. One thing I really like about his riding style is, like you said, he's really aggressive, but not flashy, and he's super loose on the bike.
Yeah, yeah,
He's not afraid to just send it.
yeah.
I mean, that's his riding style, just wide open, sailing in deep, and I'm gonna make it stick. There's no hope, and I'm gonna make it stick.
It reminds me in that way Blake Baggett on a 250.
Yep.
When the Texas 12 pack, or Blake showed signs of this on a 450. Even I remember there's a clip from Blake at Washougal, that wall jumped into the sand,
Yeah,
that just like fourth wide open, just going for it, and
flying.
yeah. Or even Dean Wilson on a 250. You remember Paula, I think it was 2011, or they had that like uphill roller section, and Dean Wilson was doing some like crazy wheel tap scrub thing off the top of it. But I guess to your point, a lot of those guys were insane on 250s, came to 450s, and then maybe moved up too quick or whatever it was, and didn't really have that same level. And so I guess I could see, although I do think Deegan's a bit of a different breed at the moment, not to just be like a Deegan, whatever. But I mean, I think at this point he's
totally
proved
agree.
it, right? I mean, he's proved it. He's him.
He's the guy.
Yeah, he's that guy. Yeah, very interesting. I'm excited for the future. The sport looks like it's going the right direction. SMX has done, I think, a lot for the sport to bring more eyes, which has been interesting though, because I think SMX has done a ton to bring at least more sponsorship eyes, and there's a lot of money in the on the line, and it brings a lot of hype. And I certainly was really, really excited for SMX at the end of the year. But when I was at Charlotte, there wasn't as many people as I would have expected there to be. And I don't know if it was because it was like super duper hot that day and we were in Charlotte, and, I mean, I was flipping sunburnt, but I was at A1 as well, and A1 was completely sold out. Like the most people I've ever seen at a race. And it was like, wow, okay, so Supercross is doing really well. And I kind of expected Charlotte to be the same, and it really just wasn't. And it seemed like the other two rounds were, I think the final round was obviously probably pretty packed, but round two also seemed a little light on attendance, which was interesting to me.
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, I spent 5 years stationed in North Carolina, so I can completely understand. Dude, it's hot, it's humid. I don't want to
Yeah.
be here.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It was not
But
ideal.
but at the same time, I think another factor is NASCAR has deep, deep, deep roots in North Carolina.
That's fair.
Everybody out there cares and breathes NASCAR.
Sure,
And
sure.
for a new motorsport to come in newer,
Yeah.
and go, hey, we're doing this, it's not super surprising that not a lot of people showed up, which is unfortunate.
That makes sense.
It is unfortunate, but it does make sense. One thing I do really wish, there's two venues that used to be on the pro card that we need back on the schedule. We need Sam Boyd Stadium, and we need Glen Helen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if Glen Helen's not on the list, I'll make sure I add that. But yeah, definitely Glen Helen. Now I guess there's a ton of politics behind that, and I don't really foresee that coming back.
Bit, and it's an unfortunate situation. I am a firm believer that Glen Helen was worlds better than Paula.
Yes. I don't think anyone would ever argue that. Paula,
You'd be
Paula,
surprised. I've heard some people go, I
really?
like Paula better. I'm like,
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, even from a spectator perspective, Paula's like super flat and not great to see anything other than what's right in front of you. Where Glen Helen, you had most of it on the hill, and then obviously there's some off to the side. But yeah, Paula, I mean, I guess Paula's getting better. I mean, the first few years it was just terrible. This last year it was okay. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that track. It doesn't translate well on bikes either, although they killed it this year on all the bike tracks. But
it doesn't translate well at all. Now JV makes it work.
Yeah. So it's interesting though that the aerial tracks this year, the outdoor tracks, were actually Stone Rider's hype maps. So Stone Rider made the track, JV did the objects, and Hell Machine did all the textures. So it was kind of a collaboration of the three. So
that's why they were so good.
Yeah. You kind of got the best of all of their worlds. JV, if you guys don't know, JV is like a world class, not even kidding, a world class 3D artist and animator. And then Hell Machine's also extremely talented. And then Stoney, I'm pretty sure, is like a self-taught MX Bikes track creator, doesn't have a huge background in that. I could be wrong. Sorry, Stone. But he really stepped it up, I think, this year with the outdoor tracks, and really,
Absolutely.
all of them were great.
100%. Everybody brought their A game for the tracks, and they made them super technical. and really difficult, and visually they are just stunning.
Yeah.
Even though I can barely turn a lap around without getting a good old Paboso bounce.
Yeah.
They are
When I
phenomenal.
work pretty close with those three and some other things, and they shared some pictures of, I think it was a track in Pennsylvania. So high, or not High Point. Yeah, High Point. They shared some pictures of High Point, and it just blew my mind. And I went and took pictures of like Maryland, like the stock track, and put them next to each other, and was like, same game, by the way. Somehow this is the same game. Like, it looks like I have RTX on one of them and RTX off on the other one. It's just insane.
It's
But
like, all right, we got the same track. We have the new one, which we created on Photoshop, everything top
sure.
flight, and we got the original one. We made that on Microsoft Paint.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's incredible what they can do with an engine that's just, ancient and isn't updated, and Paboso doesn't really even understand it. So how could anybody else understand it? Yeah, it's interesting, but they make it work.
Absolutely, they made it work, and it's great. It's very difficult, which I like. I love a good challenge.
Hmm.
If I can get head up on a stock track and within 5 minutes turn burners,
Sure.
that's not fun to me.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not. Now, if I go on one of the aerial tracks and I can play for 4 hours and barely put a decent lap together, that just kind of lights a fire in me. Like, okay, I need to get better.
Did you see, speaking of difficult tracks, have you seen the Motocross of Nations track that they just put out? It's not out yet, but they put the preview out for it. So I tested it. Good luck.
Okay, so
I
when it
sent a message
wraps, I'll
back
be
to
one of the first to get it.
I sent a message back to JB because I did not qualify for Motocross of Nations. I guess I'm just bad. And I sent a message to JB because he had me test and was like, well, everyone's going to hate this track because it's super, super hard. But if you're going for a replica, you nailed it. It's perfect. Like, you land in ruts, you take off in ruts, you're in a rut in the corner. Everything is just, I mean, it's a great track too. Once I spun about 20, 30 minutes on the track, it was like I found my lines and I realized where I needed to brake and whatnot. And it's really good. Hands down the best Matterley Basin we have in the track or in the game. And but yeah, good luck to everyone for their first 20 minutes because it's not
I
easy.
want to see. I want to see Troy's video on that track.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be funny.
It's it's tough. I'm excited. Troy's racing for Guam, which I was racing for 250s in Guam. I got beat by like 2 or 3 points, which is tragic because I actually have family in Guam. So I'm like the only one with ties to Guam in the community. Like, just give me the spot. But Beast absolutely. I mean, he was really solid in our qualifying races, but even though that was like the best I've ever played in MX bikes, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm excited to watch Troy because he's racing for Guam, so I'm really cheering Troy on.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna be rooting for him.
Yeah,
Be rooting for him.
yeah,
All right, that's pretty much all I got for this episode. Doc,
sure.
go ahead and give us a promo for yours and Exhibits podcast.
It's actually just going to be on Exhibit's channel. We've been actually talking about back and forth today whether we should put it on a new channel or whatnot, and I think we decided just to keep it on Exhibit's channel. So make sure you go check out Exhibit and subscribe to him, and you can find the podcast on there.
Sounds good. And where else can we find you, Mr. REAPERDOC?
I'm REAPERDOC everywhere. Thank you.
All right, guys, if you're listening, go check Doc out. Go check Exhibit out. They have really good content. Keep up with them. They got some big stuff coming.
Yeah.
All
Thank you
right,
for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. God
course.
bless you, brother. And I can't wait to see what you have in store for us.
Thank you. Have a good day.